Hi, welcome back to Undefined with Ami, and today we have a very, very special guest from Russia, Boris Barabanov.
Yes.
That's how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got in touch with me basically on the internet, or I was tagged in a request by you to get in touch with Yoav Kutner.
Yes.
Basically you're here for the Radiohead concert.
Yes, it's occasionally happened that there are two big shows that are very interesting for me as a music journalist, and both of the tours finishing in Tel Aviv. So the final shows are always like special, or as sometimes we call it, green concerts, like with surprises. And also both bands are not coming to Russia this tour. It was Guns N' Roses a few days ago,
Yeah.
and then Radiohead. So yeah, this was the good reason to come.
Yeah.
Except that Israel is always good place to come.
So what's basically we talked a little bit on the way over here in the car, and you said something about musical tourism, which is basically you're bringing a group from Russia
Yes.
to go to the Radiohead show.
Yeah, sure. The group is not so big, but there are still bands who are not so often visiting our country, and some people who really love the music. They are ready to go anywhere, at least
Yeah.
on this shore of Atlantic Ocean. So they are ready to come to any place to see the band that they love.
But you're I did some research after we talked, and you're deep into music, and I would say in the deepest way. You've been a radio host, a radio DJ.
Yes, I was.
And you're you're a journalist for a
writing.
magazine called
Yes,
Kommersant.
Yes, the newspaper. Yes.
Newspaper. And I understand you're also managing or advising artists, or
I think this fact appeared because of sometimes I have to help to the artists I love, but I would not say I'm professional music producer or manager. This special job.
Yeah.
Not for me.
Not for you, no. But you, so you wanted to get in touch with Yoav Kutner because of his special connection to Radiohead.
Yes,
so
yes.
can you explain a bit about that? Because I knew that Radiohead basically broke through in Israel first, but I didn't know this story. So maybe you can tell us.
Yes, as I know, maybe a bit wrong, but in general, the situation was with the first singles of Radiohead that were not well accepted in British media. So the start of the career of the band was not so momentary. And the song called "Creep" that everyone knows appeared on the radio in Israel. Because of Yoav Kutner started to play it. And then, I don't know the details, how it was mentioned, how it was found by maybe British media or British radio persons, so they found that the song became popular in Israel. Or maybe because many people from Israel are traveling, like maybe you know the last year phenomenon of American singer called LP, who is long time recording artist and singer in US, but she has 3 records, but she wasn't popular there, and she's still not popular there. But last year, the song of her appeared on the radio in Greece, then in Italy, then people who used to spend their vacations in Mediterranean islands started to post or share her videos on the web, on social networks, and it became big in other Europe and in Russia, and now she's big here.
Yeah.
So, but still not unknown in US. Anyway, the story was quite similar. So after this radio station, I still don't remember the name, started to broadcast this song. Then somehow the song became big in Britain, and then it became a classic forever and ever, and so on. That was the story.
Yeah.
So yeah, I tried to find Yoav, but he just texted me that he's a bit, as I understand, sick or busy or but the story I think is good because of this situation with political aspect of this gig in Tel Aviv.
So maybe I'll explain a bit about that. Basically, Radiohead has, and every artist that is performing in Israel, they get a lot of pressure to cancel their concert from different movements, different anti-Israeli movements. One of them is the BDS, the Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions movement. And very, very famously now, Tom York has come out and said, has taken a stance against those movements, saying we're adults, we know how to reflect, we know how to make decisions, and we're educated enough to make our own decisions. And I think Radiohead have played here a few times over the course of the years, and they've always been very warmly accepted as a band. That's actually one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, because you said they don't play in Russia, and you think they might actually.
I also wanted to mention that the guitar player of Radiohead and I think one of two masterminds of the band, Johnny Greenwood, his wife is from Israel, so that's also a good reason for the band to take their own decisions about where to play and where not to play. And the situation was absolutely, I would say, anti-correct or anti-fair, because a big number of musicians with famous Roger Waters on the head, they wrote open letter that was published, like, don't go to Israel. And it is very similar to what's happening now in Russia, when some artists are agreeing to play in Crimea or in eastern Ukrainian territories. Some artists are strictly not going there, not playing there, and it is a matter of huge discussion in media. What is the main purpose of an artist? To play where an audience is expecting him, wanting him, or playing where a government is good, from the point of view of someone,
of certain people.
So of certain people, yes. I think this is maybe one of the hugest conflicts in the culture now. And talking about the political reasons, it is not modern gossips. I never met any official texts from Tom York camp about we will not go to Russia because political reasons. And many years we had kind of similar gossips about U2, and finally they came in 2010. And they were okay. They were visiting in different places, traveling to Sochi, so they were fine. So finally, I think we will see Radiohead in Russia. But anyways, for now, it's the only possibility to see them is to go somewhere.
But you, I saw actually when I did some research, and I actually asked questions as well. There were some questions about how do you feel like people in culture are usually more liberal and more open. There was this very famous anti-gay laws in Russia. Of course, I always feel that media looking from the outside in, they never see the gray areas, and they never understand the big picture, and they talk in headlines.
I absolutely agree.
And so I'm curious to see, because I've actually talked to some people from Russia, and I've talked to some people here, and you also mentioned this, that there's a big Russian contingency in Israel, but they're actually quite disconnected from what goes on in Russia. I'm actually curious because I think I saw somewhere that you spoke up publicly, or you wrote something publicly against this gay laws.
Me?
Or am I wrong about
No.
this? Yeah.
Against the law.
Or some ballet was closed because
Oh
they
no,
had some
I don't comment. I don't comment any ballet problems. But
Okay.
of course, yeah, there is a strong informational impact from the decision of Bolshoi Theater to, as they say now, postpone the premiere of the ballet about Rudolf Nureyev,
Okay.
who is a great Russian ballet dancer. So no, I don't participate.
You didn't comment in
this
sense.
situation.
Maybe it was just
but
somebody asked me.
if someone really wonders what is happening, it is very interesting to read about it. Find
Yeah.
it in the internet. What's happening around this play, around this ballet, and a lot of famous persons.
Mhm.
I would say controversial persons are involved in this situation, and then decide what is wrong or what is right. So because we now live in this situation of kind of post-truth, when
Mhm.
no one can say he definitely knows what's happening with someone else, you know.
Yeah, that's a big thing here as well. You see always that people, they stand on one side or the other of a certain issue, and then they'll take whatever they can, put it out of context, and throw it out into the world, and you're never left with a true picture of what actually goes on. Like, for instance, you were born in the Ukraine,
Yes.
in Odessa,
Yes.
but you're living in Moscow,
Yes.
right?
I was born in Soviet times.
Soviet
when
time.
Ukraine was one of Soviet republics. Yes.
Okay, and how does it? Because I mean, the situation between, like you said, the people not playing in Crimea, or some. I think somewhere I saw that some musicians were banned from either leaving or coming to. That they couldn't play, and so they did a concert
So
without the singer.
The main picture that you can find in media is that there is a law in Ukraine that says a person can go to Crimea only crossing the border between Crimea and Ukraine.
Mhm.
But we have direct flights from Moscow to Simferopol.
Okay.
And most of artists who want to play in Crimea, they take, it's much easier to fly there. It's like
Okay.
2 hours and you are in the Crimea. But officially, Crimea is in kind of in the Ukrainian laws.
Mhm.
Crimea is a part of Ukraine. Yes.
Mhm.
But this is what Ukraine says.
Okay.
That's why when you cross the border, when you go to Crimea this way, you break the laws of Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
This is the idea, and kind of making decisions about the artists who visit Ukraine. They mean that an artist had to not to break the laws of Ukraine.
Okay.
And it was a huge scandalous situation when Russian singer couldn't participate in Eurovision contest
Mhm.
because she was performing in Crimea before.
Oh, okay.
And then when we will talk about it, we can talk about it hours and hours, because there are many details, many opinions, some terms of this situation of a breaking of a law of the law. These terms are so you have to mean when was it so, and is it a crime or not, and what Russia thinks. Huge number of different details.
Yeah.
But this is one of the most, I would say, tragical situations with culture.
Yeah.
Because many people in Ukraine want to sing their favorite songs with their favorite Russian artists, but these artists formally broke the Ukrainian law.
I see.
So this is the situation.
It's I read something about a band that came and the singer wasn't allowed to perform. I'm not exactly sure where it was, and they ended up.
No, and there is other side of this problem that two originally Ukraine artists, had to play in Odessa, in my native city, this May, and the local activists, they they formally, I think they behaved like terrorists, because they stopped the people who were coming to the concert by using some I don't know, petardi is the like fireworks
yeah.
or some explosive stuff. Not weapon, but
yeah.
maybe it can also hurt, you know,
Yeah.
to not to let people to go to these concerts.
Oh, wow.
It's the name of the singer is Svetlana Loboda, and the name of other boy is Ivan Dorn. They both are very popular, both in Ukraine and in Russia. And Svetlana, like, was the main she was blamed by these Ukrainian activists that she was singing in Russia a lot.
Okay.
And this guy, Ivan, who is, I think, one of the best artists on post-Soviet territory, he said in interview something that someone considers wrong about Ukraine and about his life in Ukraine.
Okay.
So it's very painful for someone in Ukraine, for a big number of people who are very who have to survive in this complicated situation of civil war, which happening there. And yeah, that's why it happened. So not only Russians are coming to Ukraine less, not less, I would say rarely now,
Okay.
but also the citizens of Ukraine who visit Russia to sing and who are talking to Russian media and saying some words, they are not allowed to perform in Ukraine. I would, actually, it is not so easy to explain even in Russian, not only in English. But this is the tragical situation in the culture between two countries.
Yeah. How would you describe, say, in Russia itself, the musical scene, like for artists, like we talked a little bit about artists not succeeding in their home country, but I think in Russia, from what I've understood, it's either imported music, but Russian artists are expected to perform in Russian, right? It's sort of, I don't know a lot of Russian artists that have actually made it out of Russia singing in English. How well accepted is it for a Russian artist to sing, in English or French or Italian, or do they mostly expect them to be local?
No, for me, if you work in Russia, you have to sing in Russian. But there are good examples when some bands prefer to sing in English, and they have success in Russia. I think it depends on the roots of these bands, on the music that were with them when they were growing up, and the purposes. But I would repeat that not only Western market-oriented bands in Russia are singing in English.
Okay.
Someone is still singing in English, even having most audience in Russia. And about the success out of Russia and maybe some promotion out of Russia, after the perestroika years, when there was a band called Gorky Park that performed in US and had good results in Billboard charts even, and some other examples. There was only two acts that had great success. It's the band called PPK that made a huge house trance track that became #1, I think, in Britain, Resurrection. And then it was Tattoo, the girl band, girl duo, that was also very popular all over the world. Then it was Break. And now I would say that the most accepted Russian artists abroad are electronic artists, not oriented on a word.
Yeah. It was like that a bit in Israel as well. It was only like the trance artists that were successful outside. In the later years, we've seen bands like Balkan Beatbox that are combining music, or Asaf Avidan.
Yes,
if you maybe have heard.
Asaf Avidan is one of my favorites.
Yeah, he's awesome. I mean, there are a few bands now that have managed to break through. I remember when I released my first album, there was a lot of a lot of pushback on the fact that I was releasing an album in English. There was maybe one or two artists before me that had done it, and none had actually succeeded in doing it. And we were surprised when we got on the radio. We were surprised when people started coming to concerts. And within like 2 or 3 years, boom, you have Asaf Avidan and other artists that came along as well. And now it's sort of changing because they see that actually Israeli artists are doing well abroad and coming back. And so I thought maybe it was a little bit like this in Russia as well. So what is your connection to, because you've mentioned that Israel is always a nice place to come, what's your connection to Israel as a whole? What made you come here the first time?
First time I came here when I was a DJ on one cruise liner. It was like 2000 or 1000. It was 1994.
Okay.
And I was in, I don't know, Haifa maybe.
Okay.
So I was just a DJ on my cruise ship. And then I came here years later. I don't remember, maybe this year. Because my friends did this huge show of Jean-Michel Jarre in Masada.
Yeah.
And that was a good reason to get back and to refresh my impressions of Jerusalem, of all the territory, and to see friends. So yeah, it was good reason, and I came here twice, and then this is my third time this year when I get here. So yeah.
So your taste in music I would say, from what I understand, it ranges. It's quite eclectic because you're talking about electronic music, you're talking about rap music, you're talking about Guns N' Roses, Jean-Michel Jarre. It seems you have a very wide range of things that you like and enjoy.
That's my job.
That's your job. But how did you actually find your way into the music maybe not as a love, but as a business? What made you kind of dedicate your life in that direction?
Actually, my profession is philologist. My occupation is Russian language.
Okay.
But when I was very young, so my mother brought. She was working on Cuba as a Russian specialist in Russian language for foreigners, and she bought double cassette deck for me. It was absolutely. It was like I was number one in my area, in my yard, you know, because I could re-record some cassettes from one to other. It is not so easy to explain how important it was
I can
at
imagine.
that times.
Yeah.
So that's why I was the one through whom all the music from all my friends was going. You know, like different people were giving me different music to copy.
It's incredible. It's incredible when you said like a double desk of cassettes. If you talk to people that are young today, they know they have maybe seen a cassette once.
At the same time, I became fan of different kinds of music, but at the same time, I thought that my profession will be literature or language or philology. So it became one because I became language student, and at the same time I became a DJ, working for clubs or discotheques or like this at the same time, and then it became the profession of music journalist.
Yeah, I mean it was funny because I was looking for things to, you know, do some research, but it was very hard because even just finding out if it's you that actually wrote whatever article was, I had to do Google Translate on the whole thing and then look for the author. I did find when that you had some musical criticism for in Norway. Actually, I'm half Norwegian, so I speak Norwegian. So I could, so I found that you've written articles for maybe the Russian artists that traveled to Norway and they use your name.
I was writing about the Norwegian festivals, about Norwegian artists who were coming to Russia, and I even organized the shows of, I think, one of the best composers in our times. His name is John Erik Koda.
Okay.
He's a film composer and I would say avant-garde composer. So yeah, I think we still, I would not say friends, but sometimes we text to each other. When I'm in Norway, I text him, I would be glad to see you. He answers, I'm in Bergen and playing with my orchestra, so this time no, but I would be happy to see you, and it's going on years and years. Anyway, I am a fan of Norway. Yeah. And my favorite writer is Jon Nesbø.
Oh, really?
So that's why I think I still have some connection to Norway.
Oh yeah, okay. Because I found, you know, it's very random what I could find that would actually be that I could, you know, connect your name to an actual article, and but I thought that was it was a funny connection being from Norway as well. And so you go to Norway a lot?
Yes, I miss this year because a lot of things in Israel. Yeah. But annually I visit Norway like once a year at least.
Oh.
So. Yeah.
So you have to hit me up. Maybe I'm there next time.
Sure.
Cool. My family's still there. So, you brought some music that I thought maybe it'd be a nice idea to highlight. If we could maybe play.
What time we
on.
have?
I don't know. Let's look. We're good.
Let's start from the. Okay, I can just make some introductions.
Yes.
So the first thing is the singer and. Actually, originally rapper. His name is Basta. His name is Vasily, but he's got 3 different pseudonyms. So the main project is Basta, and this song became huge hit in Russia because the persons that participated in this record. They are from, I would say, different camps of Russia-Ukraine conflict.
Okay.
There is one guy from Ukrainian band. There is one guy from Russian band, one man from Russian band, and he's got very patriot orientation in today's Russian political situation. So different people, and they have very beautiful female vocal part of Diana Arbenina, who is one of big rock stars in Russia. So yeah, it's quite long, but you can cut it in the middle because you will understand the main message very soon.
So maybe we can hear a couple of minutes of that.
Делай вопреки, делай от руки, мир переверни, небо опрокинь. В каждом наброске, в каждом черновике учитель продолжается в своем ученике. Всю мою жизнь я иду ко дну, всю мою жизнь я искал любовь, чтобы любить одну. Они сказали нас, поздно спасать и поздно лечить. Плевать, ведь наши дети будут лучше, чем мы. Лучше, чем мы. Лучше, чем мы. Когда меня не станет, я буду петь голосами моих детей и голосами их детей. Нас просто меняют местами. Таков закон сансары, круговорот людей. Ой, мама, когда меня не станет, я буду петь голосами моих детей и голосами их детей. Нас просто меняют местами. Таков закон сансары, круговорот людей. Ой, мама, нас не стереть, мы живем на зло. Пусть не везет, но мы свое возьмем. Это небо вместо сцены, здесь все вверх ногами. Эти звезды в темноте, тобой зажженный фонарик. Тысяча меня до меня и после меня будет. Тысяча меня и в тысячах не меня. Тысяча меня. И мы снова вдребезги, и нас не починить. Плевать, ведь наши дети будут лучше, чем мы. Лучше, чем мы. Лучше, чем мы. Когда меня не станет, я буду петь голосами моих детей и голосами их детей. Нас просто меняют местами. Таков закон сансары, круговорот людей. Ой, мама, когда меня не станет, я буду петь голосами моих детей и голосами их детей. Нас просто меняют местами. Таков закон сансары, круговорот людей. Ой, мама.
Когда меня не станет, просто меняют местами. Таков закон сансары, круговорот людей. Ой, мама.
Когда меня не станет, я буду петь голосами моих детей и голосами их детей. Нас просто меняют местами. Таков закон сансары, круговорот людей. Ой, мама, когда меня не станет, я буду петь голосами моих детей и голосами их детей. Нас просто меняют местами. Таков закон сансары, круговорот людей. Ой, мама.
Yeah, well, it was called Sansara.
Okay.
The name of the main person is Basta, and this chorus of the song, if to translate, it's like when I'll be gone, I will keep singing with the voices of my children and with the voices of children of my children. So
Okay.
it's very beautiful, kind of
Very poetic.
Hinduist stuff. Or
Looking at the videos, like very perfectly Russian. I think is like you know the
yeah,
different image,
they told their fans to send the family pictures to like email of this project, and then they made this collage of
yeah.
different pictures, family pictures.
I love having this fan engagement when you're doing anything like any music video. We had one music video where we just asked people to send our cell phone footage, and we just connected for 3 years. And it was before it was all digital, so we would get little cassettes or CDs and arrange that into a video clip as well. So I think this fan engagement is today it's so easy.
Yes.
Like, today is really easy.
It
to
is
get.
not, it works better, of course, when you are famous.
Yes.
But sometimes even not so famous groups are using this method and use it successfully. So yeah. Okay. The next song is the song from the movie, kind of maybe first big budget Russian fantasy film,
Okay.
which is called He is a Dragon, and it's kind of built on Russian fairy tales, or of course there is an original script, but the aesthetic of the movie is kind of Russian mythology. And my good friend, her name is Zhenya Lubich. She's working simultaneously in France and in Russia. She recorded kind of perfect teenage ballad, I would say, which is called Lullaby of Silence.
Okay.
And it became main theme of this movie. The movie was premiered 2 years ago, or 1.5 years ago. And the interesting fact is that it became very popular in China.
Wow.
And now the company that made it They are going to make a sequel with participation of Chinese film managers or producers. I don't know. Yeah, and so the next video is Lullaby of Silence by Zhenya Lubich. So let's see.
That's it.
Мне бы крылья, чтобы укрыть тебя. Мне бы вьюгу, чтобы убаюкала. Мне бы звезды, чтобы осветить твой путь. Мне бы увидеть сон твой когда-нибудь. Черное показать. Мне бы волны, чтобы тебя укачать. Мне бы колыбельную тишины. Точно корабли проплывают сны.
We almost missed our cue coming back. We were so like into listening to.
I think it's a beautiful song.
It's a very beautiful song. It's a very beautiful song. I think, for me, it's nice to have this place to kind of get exposed to new ideas, new music. I mean, usually you're actually the first guest that we have that we're not playing an instrument at this time. So, well,
Next time, I promise I will play on something.
Do you play an instrument?
No.
No.
But I can try to learn maybe some maracasi or congas or
bring
bongas.
something. But so when you, as a DJ, you were always like there was mostly electronic music that
No.
you were doing. No, you were
It was
doing
the
anything.
times. That was the times. That were the times when, and if you worked on a cruise liner on the sea, you had to entertain all kind of audience.
Okay.
And that's why. And in I think 1993, 1994, electronic music was not so huge as it is now. So there were MTV hits, there were Russian pop music hits and retro hits, and I had to mix it all to please the audience.
What's your like favorite style? Like I'm guessing in the '90s. For me, I was completely immersed in the grunge scene. I think so. I remember when I think I was 18. I was doing rap music. I was probably the worst rapper in Norway, And I heard "Smells Like Teen Spirit" on the radio, and I felt this something happened, like from before I heard it to after I heard it. I don't know how direct it was, but I started playing guitar at that time, and I completely changed. You know, everything became more folky. Everything became more guitar based, and I was really heavy into like Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and the whole like Soundgarden. And how big was that in Russia at that time?
Of course, Nirvana was big, but you know, it was like I was living at the same time in two worlds, because I had friends from US who were sending me VHS cassettes with the stuff like Mother Love Bone, Temple of the Dogs, and Jane's Addiction. So I knew what is Jane's Addiction at that times. And at the same moment I was preparing for my quiz discotheques, and I had to play does anyone know Army of Lovers and Chinggis Khan and Modern Talking and maybe East 17 and Russian singers, Russian pop stars of the past at the same time. But you know, I think it was very good experience for me to understand what people really want and to find the ways to influence people, to change their tastes a bit. I wasn't so brave to make discotheques built on Mother Love Bone records on the ship with hundreds of I would say first Russian capitalists with their girlfriends, if not to call them first Russian mafiosos. But I felt what do they need, because sometimes they were coming and saying like, can you repeat this? Can you play this? And it was not only Boney M. And that was maybe the most useful experience for me as a journalist then, after, when I started to write about it.
So this was actually right in that period when right after basically the wall came down and Russia opened up a little bit more and people started
It was Ukraine, so it was a different country, but we didn't feel it like that. It was still the same space, no border, and many Russian tourists were coming to our ship aboard, traveling, visiting different countries. It was the time when I visited all Europe, which was impossible for me like 3 years before. I couldn't even imagine that can happen, that I can, every day I can be in other European capital, including Oslo. So this was the year the period when the world was changing rapidly.
It's like I mean, I imagine this from going from having this. I'm still with this cassette player,
and it was the cassettes were still actual. And I was even doing mixes on the cassettes.
Really?
So even mixes using the beat, you know, listening like 1, 2, 3. We had these black decks called I don't remember the name, Mayak maybe. And I had two pairs of earphones, like making like this scratch, not scratches, but mixing in a beat. It was that I could do almost perfectly. Actually not.
It just feels like this whole, like it really must have been such a big change. Also, the exposure to the music all of a sudden, because I mean, I guess if you have friends from abroad, they will send you a few tapes here and there, but all of a sudden you're actually exposed to so much music coming from the whole world. And I guess also on this cruise ship, you're going to different places and maybe picking up music. And
Yes, we were buying some, compilations of local hits, and sometimes it could really be big in our little DJ team, and then in our city in Odessa, and then in Russia. So yeah, but mostly, more often, the things were like some young artists coming to play on our, Russian artists coming to play on our cruise liner, and then they were becoming bigger and bigger and bigger in Russia. But the most interesting thing was when we were in Naples in Italy, or Genova, I don't remember. Oh no, Naples, and it's always was these travels we always had something that a custom service would better not knowing, And one day one of our DJs went to the custom officers and said, guys, we want to make a good party for you in Italy. We just go, welcome to our restaurants or to our music venue on aboard on the ship, and we will do best Italian disco for you. And they came, and we played all Italian hits from 80s, like Toto Cutugno, Celentano, Albano e Remina Power. So that was all the Sanremo hits of the previous decade.
Okay.
And these custom officers, they were happy as kids, because at that moment, Italy wasn't in these, they had different hits, different music epoch, no new stars, but these officers, they were from the generation of Celentano. And when they said, guys, anything from us, any problems, just be our guests. So that was a good moment about when music becomes a universal language, I would say.
and actually opens the borders so you can bring in whatever you want. The corruption by music.
Maybe someday in my memoirs, in my book of memories, I will write more details about this.
I think it will be a very, very interesting book. I have to say that we're almost at the end of our time here.
What's better, to play one more track, or just to talk?
I am not sure. I'm enjoying this very much because it's such a wealth of information, and my intuition when you wrote me and I saw that you were a journalist was that it would be a very interesting conversation, and so far I haven't been wrong at all. I know it's been difficult because your English is hard.
It's not
to
Ukraine.
Speak, So I don't know. I think I prefer just to we have another 5 minutes. I'd prefer to just pick your brain just a little.
Yeah, maybe I would say for this final segment, I would say thank you. I always believe that Facebook is not only evil, but sometimes it helps to communicate.
Absolutely.
And thank you that you found me, and if you will be on the Radiohead show, I'll be happy to see you.
Yeah.
And thank you for any people who was watching this show. I don't know who are you people, but thank you for this.
Where can people find you if they're looking? Do you have Twitter apart from Facebook?
Yes, my name is Boris Barabanov. I believe that it's not so easy to write, but if you will have some titles here, Boris Barabanov, and you will find me in Facebook mostly, or in Telegram, and I'm trying to develop my own internet platform now, which is called barabanov.fm, and I try to focus there only on music themes, not using my kids' photo center and messages and anecdotes.
This is going to be like a music spreading website.
I hope I will finally come to some own music platform, because all the media process is pushing me to make something like this,
That'd be-
and to finally to tell what was the thing that we were taking from our ship in Italy to Naples. Thank you very much. We can see now the video of a very young Russian rapper. His name is Pharaoh, and he's quite popular already. It's absolutely teenage bullshit with a lot of controversial language, a lot of explicit lyrics about girls, and that's the thing that became big like year ago, and all the young Russians who use the social networks are sharing this kind of things right now.
Nice.
If that's interesting for you, just stay in touch with us. Thank you for our beautiful assistant or mail. No,
she's
the director.
The director producer. Today we have director producer is Dini Golbais. She is actually taking care of us here at the studio. So before we do this, I'm going to say thank you, especially to Dini here. Thank you as well for coming on my show. It's been absolutely fascinating for me. I hope it has been for you as well.
I'll be happy to come again. Thank you.
And for sensitive Russian ears, I guess most of our listeners don't speak Russian, so I hope you've enjoyed actually having music that you might not understand the lyrics to. And if you do understand Russian and you don't like explicit language, I guess this is the time
or take your children to
another room. So this was Undefined with Ami, and I hope that you will join us again. It's every Tuesday at 3 o'clock. And thank you again, Boris. It's been absolutely great.
Thank you.
A pleasure.